Hello! Welcome to Stories Activity 1. In this activity, just going to be a discussion activity, and we're going to show you some images and think about generating stories behind that. Stories are everywhere. In fact, the world is made up of stories, and all of your subjects are stories. What we're going to do in this first activity, let me show you. The purpose of this activity is to try and develop some creative skills. These are really important both for your university degree and beyond. It's one of the skills that being a human is all about, is the ability to generate and create and think in abstract ways. And this really differentiates us from lots of other species, and particularly around potentially computers. So it's the thing that makes us human. It's the thing that's going to be really important for thinking about the skills that you've got when you move beyond your university degree. But let's think ahead of a story much later on. So the other thing that we're going to try and think about is your ability to interpret. And again, that's going to be a skill that you want to use in your university course. Whatever that course is about looking at stuff, reading it, interpreting it, saying what you see, telling the story around it. Whether that is the story of data and looking at a scientific report and thinking about data and trying to say what's the story here, or whether that's trying to tell a story through art, or whether that is trying to encourage children to learn, if you're in education, through ability to construct a story so they understand what you're trying to say. Storytelling is everywhere. So we're going to try and develop some of those skills in a very, very small little way. And want to also try and develop your understanding of perspective, that there's different perspectives and we can think about different perspectives. And also, we're now getting to the end of this formal part of meetups in Block Zero. So share some of your experiences, to talk about the people in your meetup group, in your team, about how you found Block Zero. And we're going to do this through a particular kind of little informal story task. So what you're going to try and do here, or what you're going to do, hopefully, is you're going to all individually go to the meetups page for this week, and I'll show you it in a moment. And there's a little carousel of images there that have been sort of randomly selected. So not really with any intent to think about your story. Randomly selected set of images, or at least curated in some ways. And what we want you to do is to decide which of those image best represents your experience of Block Zero so far. And then what you're going to do is, in your groups, you're going to go round, as always, look at the information in the video on how to do check-ins and go rounds, and explain to your team which image you chose. You can share your screen. You should be able to do that now if you've gone through some of those other activities. So you can share your screen, you can show exactly the image, or you could describe the image. People will have the website, they can access it themselves, and say, this represents my image of my experience of Block Zero, and this is why. So you're going to give a little interpretation and explanation based on the image. So some tips, try and pick up some little details in the image to help with your story and your explanation. Why might that be? So when you're looking at the images, trying to work out which of these, what's the story I'm going to construct behind this and why it represents my experience best. Try and pick up some of those details. If you want to, you can pick up multiple images. Experience isn't going to be a singular thing. You're going to have all sorts of different highs and lows, and positive and negative, and stimulating and boring elements. So whatever you want to choose, you can choose different images to represent those, or we might have one image that represents all of those different elements within it. And it may be some specific events that you might want to talk about, or it may be your experiential, emotional side of it. It's entirely up to you how you want to construct this, and people are going to go around in your group and talk through just briefly why they've chosen an image and what it means to them in terms of their experience of Block Zero. Okay, so this is the meetup page for stories. Hopefully you've gone through the check-in and you've seen the check-in and given a go at that, and now we're in activity 1. So you're going to go down to activity 1. You can see that these open and close. So I've talked to you about the purpose of activity, and the instructions are to look through the images below and decide which of these represents your experience of Block Zero and why. And you're going to take turns. So just to show you, these are the images. You can go backwards and forwards through these images and have a look over them and see which you think are the ones that represent your experience of block zero. Of course, the images are relatively random, as I've said, and it's up to you to think about what is your experience and how is that represented within this image, or just start with the image and think about what does this image seem to say to me, and why might that be reflective of my experience of block zero. And then you're going to show to your team and describe why you think that image is representative of your experience of block zero. And if you want to save the images, you can just right click and copy that image, or copy that image link, and you can put it in your Teams if you want to, or you can just share your screen from here to show your teams which image you picked, or which multiple images you've picked that are relevant to describing your experience in both this story term based on this image. So be creative and be fun. So what some alternatives, some variations? Well, you can, if you right click on any images, you can save that image. If you want to, you could include a slideshow in your block zero. You can populate that in your Teams page. So you can add a file, start a presentation if you wanted to, or a document, and add the images, and then put some explanations of those, what they meant, or what why you felt that image was representative of your experience, even for the different experiences. Again, I've always said you can share that with your program team. Send it to your program leader. Say, this is what we did in our meetup today, and this was our result. These are our experiences of block zero, and this is what they mean. That's going to really help in terms of creatively understanding your experience and sharing those experiences. You could choose a different set of images if you didn't like those images. Why not individually, if you want to? Choose your own image, do a little search and share your screen, or share an image that you feel represents your experience of block zero. So you can choose something different. If you wanted to, you can draw an image. You could draw a picture, or choose it from something in your house, or whatever it might be to represent your experience of block zero. Just about taking an image, constructing a story around that, and it doesn't have to be what the image is about. It could be all sorts of different bits from that image. Traps is not a competition to have the most exciting or innovative way of interpreting it. It might be very literal interpretation of an image. Someone falling over, and that might be what you say. I fell over. That's most literal during block zero. Or it makes me feel like it represents stumbling but getting back up again. You get the idea. It's not a competition. It's your interpretation. That's the key thing that matters. The same image, obviously there isn't a right way to interpret these images. They can be seen in multiple ways, and appreciate that people also might have experienced block zero in different ways. It's not to try and tell people that they've got, their experience is wrong. So if they both interpret an image in a different way than you did, and that their experience of block zero was different to yours, that's totally fine. So take support each other in this. Try and have some fun around thinking about the images and the telling of stories around your experience of block zero. As always, good luck with this. I hope it works okay. I hope you get some good learning on it, reflect on it, and I hope that you get to experience your teams in this space in a slightly different way, and you get to understand other people's perspectives around their own experiences around what's going on in their lives and this environment. Particularly if you're not seeing people in an on-campus environment, then what their experience might be quite different depending on what else is going on around them. So I hope you get some good learning of each other and of the format, and it helps prepare for your forthcoming course.